The Fires of Autumn by Irene Nemirovsky, read by Veronika Hyks, translated from the French by Sandra Smith. This book is dedicated to the memory of Denise Epstein, Irene Nemirovsky's daughter, who passed away in 2013 at the age of 83. From 2004, when Suite Française was first published in France, until her death, Denise travelled the world, working tirelessly to promote her mother's canon and re-establish her as one of the most respected writers in 20th century France. It was my privilege to meet her in 2006, when Suite Française was first published in English. She told me, "I could not accept my mother had died until I saw her reborn." We became great friends and shared many happy memories of travelling and speaking together at events. Denise was an extraordinary woman who is greatly missed. Translator's Introduction. Irene Nemirovsky was born in Kiev in 1903, the only child of a wealthy Jewish banker and his adulterous wife. At the time, upper-class Russian families spoke French, and since her mother had no interest in raising a child, a French governess was engaged for Irene. The family also spent most holidays on the French Riviera, so Irene considered French her first language. The Nemirovskys were forced to flee their home after the Russian Revolution, and finally settled in Paris, where Irene attended the Sorbonne, studying French and Russian literature. Irene married Michel Epstein, another Russian Jewish immigrant, in 1926, and had her first daughter Denise in 1929. The year that her first published novel, David Golder, made the writer an instant commercial success. Their second child, Elisabeth, was born in 1937. Irene continued writing at least one novel and several short stories every year, until she was deported to Auschwitz in 1942, where she died soon afterwards. The Fires of Autumn is the 11th novel to be translated into English by this prolific author, who was almost entirely forgotten before the publication of her unfinished masterpiece, Suite Française, written in a small village in Vichy, France, as the Second World War raged all around. The Fires of Autumn, written at about the same time, was no doubt inspired by the reminiscences of many French soldiers and their families who'd suffered through the First World War, and were once again reliving those horrible experiences. As the editor's note to the new French edition, 2011, which I've used for my translation of the novel, explains, Irene Nemirovsky completed The Fires of Autumn in the spring of 1942. It was published posthumously in 1957 by Albin Michel. L'Institut Mémoire de l'Édition Contemporaine, IMEC, a French association that archives literature of the 20th century, is in possession of 2 copies of the typescript of this novel, one of which contains handwritten corrections by Irene Nemirovsky. The first was used as the basis for the 1957 publication. The current edition is based on the second typescript, the result of the author's revision, in which she made cuts, additions, and modifications that were sometimes quite significant. Olivier Philippona, Irene Nemirovsky's biographer, and Therese M. Lusoni, who wrote her philology dissertation on Nemirovsky, worked together to produce this new edition, retaining nonetheless 3 chapters from Part 1 of the novel, the 5th, 6th, and 9th chapters, that the author wanted to remove, but which allow the contemporary reader better to understand the ravages of the 1914-18 war. Like Suite Française, this novel follows the fate of several families whose paths intertwine. It is a riveting study of French, especially Parisian life, from the eve of the First World War right through to the outbreak and early years of the Second World War, depicting the terrible human cost of war, as well as the corruption, greed, and political expediency that were factors leading to a breakdown of morality in interwar France. The Fires of Autumn provides us with insight into the minds of ordinary people, their lives and loves in the midst of war, and the scars
Sample complete. Ready to continue?